Saturday night against the Wizards. R.J. Barret, 21 points, Allen, 7 of 13 from the floor, 8 rebounds, and 10 assists, finishing up strong for sure.
Almost messed around and got a triple-double, came very close, but you didn't see him running after rebounds, which is a good sign. He did get that 10th assist, and there's a pretty one right there to Mitchell Robinson. Of note, Mitchell Robinson and Kevin Knox both played in this game, even though it was just kind of a consolation-style game, but they both played, put in their minutes, and you see the numbers right here as well. There's the 21, 10, and 8 for Barret as he finished very strong in the Summer League, Bill.
Knicks won at 103-87. Mitchell Robinson, another excellent game. And how about Iggy Brazdeikis? Brazdeikis with 17 points, 3 of 5 from downtown. After the game, Rebecca Harlow talked with R.J. Barret.
I've grown up with a lot of great coaches and a lot of great people, so, I'm very engaged in the game. I like to engage with the coaches, just, try to ask them what they need from me, and it's great.
Biggest takeaway for you?
Just to, I don't know, really just to slow down, just, be yourself. I don't know, I was never really worried, so it was great.
I don't think anybody was worried, RJ. But as you move into the rest of the summer, training camp is going to be here before you know it. I know you said you work on everything. You can do a little bit of everything, which is great to see. But what part of your game do you think you'll focus on here on out?
I need to make some free throws, and I need to make some layups, and I need to make more threes.
And there you go. But as it is for Barret, he's the first player in the history of Summer League to average over 15 points, 8 rebounds, and 4 assists per game. Knox at the top there was pretty solid. Brazdeikis overall was 11 of 22 from downtown. And Mitchell Robinson from the floor, 29 of 34 for 85% shooting. And look who it is. How's the jet lag, Rebecca Harlow? How you feel?
I feel wonderful.
Good.
Vegas was fun. Happy to be back in New York. And that last game was exciting.
97 degrees here, and you're like, oh, it's so much cooler.
Literally, I had that reaction last night where I thought it was so much cooler here at 97 degrees.
What I loved about the interviews you had, especially with what we just saw there with Barret, was how aware he is as a player, right? And again, a young kid at 18 years old, but aware, and that he can. The fact that he can even joke about, I got to make some threes, like make some free throws, 24% from 3, although a lot better in the last 3 games. But what you're noticing from him is that while the sky was falling because he wasn't tearing it up the first couple of games, it never really did affect him. And that shows you, as much as he wanted to play in New York, he probably is built to play here.
Yeah, and when you watched the games that they lost versus the couple of games that they won, his body language was the same the entire time. And I think that's just so important, just to show that he can handle the pressure.
Right.
And one of the things I loved about that interview was we were talking before we shot that, and he was saying how disappointed he was that he didn't get those last 2 rebounds. And you're pointing out that he wasn't chasing him down, which is good.
Yeah.
So he was playing within the system and buying into the assists and the ball movement, but he really wanted those 2 rebounds. And you want to see that. This is a meaningless game at that point. It's a consolation game. It's the last game. Everyone's exhausted, planning their trip home, and he's out there saying, I need 2 more rebounds. So that was great.
Well, I love the way RJ finished, first of all, but you have all this inside information. You're talking to coaches, Coach Fizdale all the time. Who so far is getting what Coach Fizdale wants accomplished on the court right now from them?
I would have to say Iggy, because this second-round pick comes in. They trade up to 47 to get him. They don't know what they're going to see, and they see a toughness out of that kid. And I know for Coach Fizdale, that's the team that he's built this summer. All the moves that he's made, the Marcus Morris thing, and go down the line, he's bringing in tough players. And so to have a guy come in and say that he's going to disturb things, and you can imagine what else he said in that same sentence. But that's what he wants to do, and he's so young. I like him.
It's awesome. I love Iggy.
Brings the right attitude, but 50% from 3. You can get used to that for a team that really wasn't a great 3-point shooting team, obviously. But that part's a good sign. But you just said 47th pick. 47th pick. We're not talking about, if this in the 30s, generally you'll still find a guy who's maybe a fringe first rounder. You got him at 47. That's 2 years in a row you're hoping. Now, we'll see what happens in the regular season. But after getting Mitchell Robinson in the second round last year,
that's right,
and then getting, let's see what Brazdeikis can be this year, the draft is starting to at least provide some talent to grow with.
Yeah, it is. And you really started to see it pay off with this young core those last couple of games because they were moving the ball. And so when you have RJ going inside, when you've got Knox going inside, and then you've got Iggy hitting threes, I mean, you're setting up exactly what you're looking for. And so the fact, and then Mitch is Mitch, and we've all seen what he can do.
Mitch is probably the best way to put it.
Yeah, Mitch is Mitch. But when you look at that, if these guys are playing the right way, I mean, wow, 2 second-round picks that are paying off.
Back to
It's very
back.
interesting what Kevin Knox had to say about what he thinks is going to happen in training camp for the battle for playing time. Marcus Morris reportedly has come to terms. All the additions that the Knicks have made. I mean, there's a lot of players that are going to be vying for spots in this rotation.
Yes, and I think it's going to be really interesting to see how that works out. And I also think it's really good for Knox that he's admitting that he's going to have to earn those minutes because it's true. And so if he's walking into training camp thinking he's just got a starting spot, could be wrong, and maybe he won't be, we'll see. But the fact that he recognizes that that competition is going to be really intense is smart. And the other thing is the rest of the players get that too. And so they're going to work that much harder for the rest of the summer. And that was one thing that the coaches were preaching, Judd Bushler was preaching to these guys, that these summer league games were a launching point for now what are you going to do with it and what are you going to take into your work for the rest of the summer. And when you're walking into those practices every morning thinking, I don't have a guaranteed spot, that's going to affect, that's going to affect your work.
Yeah,
So-
practices, training camp, like those are going to be some must-watch scrimmages because there's definitely spots on the line. There's minutes on the line there. But this is also a team, Rebecca, from last year, as you remember, it was a lot more of the younger guys, so you're playing a lot younger players. Expectations were a lot lower. And this year, with 6 veteran players you add to the roster, expectations are raised now. Expectations are a little different. And your interview with Dennis Smith Jr., where he's pretty much making it clear, like, hey, if I'm where I'm supposed to be, we should be a playoff team. The P word. It was already said now. It's out there.
Summer,
You can't bring that back in.
No.
But it's a pretty bold statement. But that is a player that I feel like he could be the difference between being a contender for a playoff spot or not.
I agree. And, we've seen, and I really thought it was interesting to watch the tweaks that he's made with his shot, and he's just so much more comfortable.
Did you watch it in practice? You saw it in the gym? Like,
I did.
What did
no.
you notice?
Well, so it's funny. I know you're not into the gym shots when you're watching guys shoot alone with no defenders.
no,
it's a little
but
harder
when he
to
changed
evaluate.
his form, it definitely is something to watch.
Yes, and so Keith Smart was showing me a bunch of videos of before and after with the shot, and there's such a huge difference. And it's exciting, and he gets credit for that. He's done the work.
Okay.
But the other amazing thing is that Keith Smart, you also told this on the air, Keith Smart had the same injury in the wrist?
Yes, which is wild. So it was at the end of his career that he broke the same bone. And so basically he was explaining it to me. And you know how when your wrist cracks, when you just move your wrist around, that was kind of the issue with that broken bone is that it creates that kind of hitch. And so that's why he had changed things initially. But the fact that Smarty has gone through that is
What are the
so
odds?
helpful because that just is great that he was able to say, look, this is what worked for me and this is how we'll get through it.
For more great videos from the MSG 150, check out right there. And remember, our show is on Monday through Thursday, 8 to 10:30 p.m. on MSG Network and MSG Go.